have you now.
They want to mess with my droid. They're going to pay for it.
This is the way.
You may fire when ready.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long.
Hello there.
Kenobi!
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Welcome to the Star Wars Station Communication Podcast. Speaking to you is Colin, flying solo today as my esteemed co-host Carter is unable to record this week. News popping up spurred the content of this episode, and I'm super pumped to be able to produce this for all of you. For those of you who might not know, the Lando show is back on track. Billy D. Williams tweeted out something big was happening, and this is the first thing that caught my eye. But it was just a happy accident. Turns out Billy was just talking about his memoir, his autobiography that's coming out soon. I'll talk about a little bit more on that later. Almost at the exact same time he posted this, I was scrolling through Twitter. The news came out that Donald Glover and his brother Steven are continuing forward with the Disney Plus series following Lando Calrissian. All of this is super exciting and makes my eyes want to bug out with glee. So today's podcast is all about Landonus Balthazar Calrissian and the speculation of what he's going to be in his titular Disney Plus show. So who is Lando Calrissian? You know, the first time we saw him was in Empire Strikes Back. It's such pivotal and iconic scenes of that movie. And it was, he's the Baron of Cloud City, right? And they do a lot of stuff there, mining and droid manufacturing, a bunch of stuff going on. I know he's not the Baron. Gosh, what was it? Somebody's going to have to correct me on what his title was. But, this is just the first time we saw him. George Lucas created him as a foil to Han Solo. And, since we're talking about Han Solo, Lando calls him Han, right? So that's these funny little quirks that make Lando such a good character. And I think what endears him to us is all these little things that add up, which we're going to get into. And but George Lucas said, talking about the creation of Lando, was that he was the foil to Han Solo, and sort of like what Han Solo was before Han Solo joined the Republic, or the Rebellion, actually. And so it's kind of like a reflection, right? Or a mirror image. And it's also like a tie to the past. And all of this speculation, because the first time we see these characters meet on that screen, they do that play where they don't like each other very much. But then you old scoundrel, my old buddy, my old pal, this stuff. And like, you can tell they're long lost friends, and each of them willing to take a bullet or a blaster bolt for the other. And, we don't know at the time that all of this is a trap. And so it's real fun to think about these scenes. This is one of those where I'm sure back when this came out, and what makes going to these old movies, any movie, so fun is when all of these scenes are brand new on your mind. You're seeing for the first time. And then all these surprises pop up, right? You find out that the whole thing was a trap set up by the Empire, and Lando Calrissian was forced into it, because you don't stand against the Empire. They'd have no qualms about destroying Cloud City or enslaving Lando and its inhabitants. So, for the greater good, does Lando stand up to Darth Vader, capitulates to Darth Vader, right? So you can tell he feels bad for it. Billy D. Williams played such a good acting, such good acting in these scenes in this film. I mean, he feels so bad that he double crossed Han Solo and the whole gang, right? And spends the whole next movie making up for it. But I remember watching Empire Strikes Back, and I have to really say, you know, if you followed our other content and you see what our favorite movies are, The Empire Strikes Back is one of the is my number one film, and it has to be in part due to the Lando Calrissian character, Billy D. Williams' portrayal of it, and of course everything else that goes into that movie. It's just above board, top notch. The Cloud City setting, and you can't have Cloud City, in my opinion, without Lando Calrissian. You know, it's all the style of how they created that character, wearing the cape, how Billy D. Williams did it, you know, how he talks and how he acts and all these other things. And basically, what a heart of gold character that, you know, it's a character thing because, like I said, Lando is, for lack of a better term, scumbag might be a little harsh, a scoundrel, I think. The Pirate King, no, he's really not a pirate. He's a scoundrel prince or something like that, I guess you call it. He's a gambler. You know, think about those people you even hear about. They're mostly fictionalized, but there's a lot of people who are legit that make money gambling, make money playing poker. Well, it takes special talent and special skills to be able to do that, to make money that way. But Lando had no problem doing that. My point is, it's real easy to fall into a trap that people who earn money poker for a living are just not on the up and up somehow. But Lando is discussed as a scoundrel, like a smuggler and some other things like that, and makes a lot of money, makes an income playing cards. You know, he didn't really have to worry about money. He's so good at playing sabacc, right? So it's also seems to me that there is a lot of, if in real life, if you make money playing cards, it is a profession. I've watched a lot of people online who are capable of making an income playing Texas Hold'em or otherwise. And so that always leads to some sort of like fantasy lifestyle, in a sense of like a fictionalized thing where, most people, me included, we have to work every day to get our daily bread. And to be able to casually go and play a card game, something that most of us reserve in our minds as a recreational activity, these guys are able to turn it into an income for them. And so throughout all the comics, throughout so many different movies and films and TV shows, whatever Lando's in, he's always portrayed as somebody able to casually just go over and earn a living or earn a wage by playing sabacc or something like that. Or at least some pocket money, able to do what he wants, whatever he's trying to accomplish in the film. He's not always successful about it, right? I'm gonna talk about that. So the next movie that Lando Calrissian was in is Return of the Jedi, as we all know. This is Carter. This is his number one movie. And again, it wouldn't be what it is without Lando Calrissian. And I say specifically Billy D. Williams portraying Lando Calrissian. We get so much more of the character in this. He starts off, has infiltrated Jabba's palace, is able to give help to Luke Skywalker and the rest on Jabba's sail barge, right? Stays incognito the whole time. I mean, just to be able to pull this off, if you think like a deep dive into this, he's had to have been there for weeks, maybe even months, working up trust and all this stuff. It's kind of crazy to think about. And then they go from there to being a general and attacking the Death Star. And think about, he led that strike team into Death Star 2 above Endor. And this isn't something that's casually done, right? Many Bothans died, as the line goes. And you come out of hyperspace and you find out that it's all a trap. And Lando pushes on and continues to pursue the Death Star based off of his capabilities and what he is, what's the word? Confidence in himself, but also confidence in Han Solo and how he's able to successfully know that despite these odds, Han Solo is going to get the shield down and the attack on the Death Star 2 is something worth pursuing, as opposed to not being just scared and running away. So that whole thing, it's really getting deep down on those characters, but it's once you watch these films and you see the actions that take place and you leave the theater, all these processes in your mind going in your head about, like the Millennium Falcon belonged to Lando Calrissian before Han Solo. And the Falcon was with Solo for a long time, but how long was it with Lando? Obviously enough for him to be really comfortable with it. And we find that out later in some of the next movies, but just thinking about what kind of skill, what kind of effort, what kind of confidence, what kind of bravery took place to fly that ship into the Death Star under construction that was a bona fide trap by Emperor Palpatine, to be able to pull that off. It's one of those like a Mount Everest style task or something like I almost picture some Mission Impossible thing with Tom Cruise gathering up his crew. They're the impossible mission force going on into this thing that has this high chance of failure. And, like they're not going to be able to pull this off. But then you throw Lando Calrissian into the mix with Han Solo flanking down on the planet, and suddenly it becomes, if we had C-3PO to give us the odds, which he's not going to do at this point, I bet they would have improved with these two fine fellows in the mix. And man, I could spend a lot of time talking about just these older films, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, how they make me feel, how endearing this Lando Calrissian character is, how he grew as a character across the two films, and what it means to Star Wars, what it means to me personally. But even as a little kid, watching the portrayal of these characters, watching Billy Dee do his work that he did. And granted, I'm a little kid. I don't know who Billy Dee Williams is. He's just another guy on screen that I have fun watching doing really cool things. But the reality is, and I want to get into this a bunch later, Billy Dee Williams is a big deal. He really is. And so not with that knowledge, just coming away from these films, just how amazing it really is. So time goes on. The prequel series comes out, and Lando Calrissian, he's not a thing. He would have been a child in a lot of these things, and then comes after. I forget the timeline exactly in real life, but the next time that Lando Calrissian is shown is in the Solo film, and this takes place in 13 BBY, right? And so 13 or 10 BBY, 10 years before the Battle of Yavin. And it's in the Solo film. So the film is mostly about Han Solo and how he got to be and where he did this. But we come across Lando Calrissian as a supporting actor in this. And he was played by Donald Glover. And so obviously we can't cast Billy Dee Williams as Lando Calrissian in this because he's much too old. And I remember when this news came out, we hadn't, this was long before the Star Wars Station Communication podcast. And there's always consternation about recasts, right? But this was a film of recast. We had Han Solo recast, and Donald Glover is being Lando Calrissian. So there was trepidation about this, and that was all misplaced. So because the film came out, it didn't perform very well. I really, really liked it a lot. And of course, Carter did too. And again, it had to do with Donald Glover's depiction of Lando Calrissian. So we're seeing a huge theme here that really, that this is one of the first inclinations. You know, there's books and stuff aside from this, but as far as films go, which is what's the most prominent thing with Star Wars, right, is these movies. It's what people are going to know of most, of the actions that these characters do. And so one thing, you know, the actors have to really do this right. The writers have to really do this right. The depiction of these characters, if they're not done correctly, it destroys the characters. Think about, you know, Game of Thrones. Nobody talks about that anymore based on that season 8. And I'm sure if I sat here a minute, I could think of a lot more examples. But just think if Donald Glover or somebody else, if Donald Glover had done a bad job or somebody else was cast into the Lando role, what it would have done. And, you know, we wouldn't be getting a Lando show. It's because of Donald Glover that we're getting a Lando show. And can you be any more excited? Can you be any more pumped for Star Wars? It really is something else, something unbelievable that we're going to get from this. And so this Solo film, I mean, if you wonder what that show is going to be about, and we got a lot to say about that, but think about how this Donald Glover's Lando acted and worked in that film. And we're going to get a whole lot of the same, because if you don't know who Donald Glover is, please go out on the internet, search him up, look at some of the stuff he's done, because he has done a lot of things that are really top notch. And I'll talk about him a little bit. But what that speaks is he's got like a work ethic. He's got a, what do you call this? He's got a talent that is really going to bring some supreme quality to the Lando Calrissian character, right? So I guess notable events in this film was Lando in the Solo film owned the Millennium Falcon. At the very end, it's one of the last scenes. Han Solo figures out that Lando is cheating at Sabacc. He has basically a card dispenser up his sleeve. That's how he was able to defeat Han Solo earlier in the film. But Lando pickpockets the card, defeats Lando in the game, and takes the Millennium Falcon for himself. And I think it's real easy to presume that in between the events of this film and A New Hope, or no, I'm sorry, Empire Strikes Back, where they come across each other, is the next time that Han Solo and Lando cross paths. I kind of hope that's not the case. I mean, maybe not, but this next TV show could change that. You know, I kind of don't think so, and I don't really want to speculate on it quite yet. Another notable event in this film that has to be mentioned is that Lando has a sidekick, and probably sidekick's not even doing it justice, has a partner in a sense like a business partnership of a droid named L337. And so the depiction of this character was really good, and there's some really heartfelt events in this film. L337 gets shot when they're doing this is also where the Kessel Run takes place, right? The 12 parsec Kessel Run. And L337 dies, for lack of a better term, dies as a result of being shot on Kessel. And they integrate her brains or thought processes into the Millennium Falcon. And so this is one of the aspects of this solo film that I really, really like. And it has to do with some science fiction stuff. And you kind of have to read some extra stuff online, or maybe it's in a book or something, watch a YouTube video here and there. But why the Millennium Falcon is so fast is how hyperspace routes are calculated. And so the more data you have, the more capable a computer is, and the time it takes to determine what these hyperspace route calculations are, determines, you're determined. That's why the whole parsecs thing is a thing. They measure not necessarily time, they measure how to get from point A to point B in parsecs. And so between hyperspace routes and the computer's capability to do that, the lesser parsecs you can do, obviously the faster a ship can get there. And with more data, with more information that these computers can have, the faster, the less parsecs a ship will be able to get from wherever you're going, from wherever you are. And L337 has talked about having one of the most expansive databases of hyperspace routes and endpoints that a ship can travel to. And then having the capabilities of a droid brain is able to input these points faster and come up with a parsec calculation between these points faster. So when she dies, and I say she, I mean, I guess their androids are pretty well androgynous, but she has a female voice, right? Played by a female voice actor. Her brain is integrated into the Millennium Falcon's computer, and so she's able to input those calculations even faster. She doesn't have a consciousness per se, but her capabilities become one with the Millennium Falcon. And so that whole thought process and all the stuff, sometimes Star Wars doesn't do that justice, but that's more of like a Star Trek way of thinking about it. But that even these little tidbits of some technological capability is another little thing. You have to peel back the layers, like I said, but it's another thing that makes Star Wars so much more fun, to really dig deep into what the Millennium Falcon is capable of, why it is the way that it is. And all this played into Lando as well, because they were partners on this Falcon doing what they did. There's lots of little stuff, Lando had his bedroom and it's full of capes. And so, like I said moments ago, it's all about, all of this stuff is what we're going to be able to see with Lando and how capable he is, how brave he is. And all the little quirks, like I said, wearing the capes, how he talks, how he does things, we're going to get to see in this Lando show. And it's beyond fun just to speculate what that's going to be. So the next thing to talk about as far as Lando goes is Rise of Skywalker. And Lando plays a hugely pivotal role in this. I mean, the film can't end without him in it. He is found by Rey and the gang on Pisana, and he's been there waiting, I guess, after the events that took place in the book Shadows of the Sith. He was searching for Ochi of Bestoon, and really just waiting for Rey to show up, kind of, I guess. But there's the big festival there. Rey finds him and says, "Hey, we need help. We need your clout, basically, to assemble a fleet to fight the Sith Eternal on Exegol." And of course he does. I think he assembled 14,000 ships is what I read on Wikipedia. And it's amazing. It's just a few scenes. He's there with Wedge Antilles, Lando is. And again, but Billy D. Williams is able to still bring this whole just suave that Lando has, even in these few scenes of this film. And then just the amount of clout he has to assemble that kind of a fleet, and the Sith officers say, "Oh, it's just people," right? And so that's who Lando is. He's just people. He's pretty special, right? But he's out there in the universe doing things and getting stuff done. He's not. He was a general for the rebellion and did all that, but after that, he's just a dude, right? He's just a really capable, really smart, really suave guy who goes and get things done. So, yeah, he's able to bring that fleet to Exegol, destroy all the planet-killing star destroyers, and Rey was able to take care of Palpatine on the ground. And there are some scenes at the end there of him lining up. I think that it wasn't his daughter. It was his daughter, because there's a bunch of discussion in Shadows of the Sith and some other books, comic books probably too. His daughter is missing or kidnapped, and it doesn't say it expressly, but she's it's speculated that she's been conscripted to be a stormtrooper for the First Order, and of course that's what the actress is at the end of Rise of Skywalker. She's a former stormtrooper, and they reconcile. In my head canon, that's what it is. I don't know exactly, but I don't remember exactly. But I think him and Maz had an interaction. So that's really cool, and it obviously makes sense. But yeah, so those are the film depiction of Lando, and I mean, now we get a TV show. And so again, what I mentioned earlier is the theme is that all the writers of Star Wars, like there has to be like a rule book, a Lando rule book that Donald Glover has been able to tap into and run with, right? He's just, you could almost call him a genius with what Donald Glover is capable of and how he depicted Lando in the Solo film, right? And so this just gives me so much hope and so much joy for what this TV show is going to be. But I want to talk about these two actors a minute, because I mean, they wouldn't be Lando. Lando wouldn't be who he is without these actors making him who they are. So, who is Billy D. Williams? He's been acting since 1943. And that's like 80 years that he's been in the film industry. I guess he was a little kid. I was researching a little bit. He really started his first film, I think, in 1949. So I guess he was a little kid in this 1943 one, but still, he's a very prolific actor with 166 credits. It hasn't been, Star Wars is obviously the most popular thing that he's been in. But for me, what another really prominent thing I remember him from is Harvey Dent in the 1989 Batman film. And there's a lot going on there. Harvey Dent is the district attorney, puts criminals away, and that whole character turns into Two-Face. There's rumors that was supposed to happen, but there's a lot of issues with those films back in the day. Lots of stuff going on in the world, I guess. I don't, anything that I could read, just be speculation, hearsay, all that stuff. But it would have been cool to see Harvey Dent, or Billy D. Williams Harvey Dent as Two-Face, and how that would have panned out. He's a musician. He's a painter and an artist. I looked up some of his art that he's done, and he's done some really cool things that I think would be really neat. I wish I could afford some of this stuff that I love to hang on my wall. And another thing that he is most notable for is advertisements for the Colt 45 malt liquor. I've tried that. It's not very good. It's kind of a cheap beer, I guess. But the commercials are absolutely hilarious. They're from another time, so take that for what it is. But they basically think I don't blame a commercial for doing this. I kind of love it took place, but the commercials make you think that if you drink this beer, all your wildest dreams are going to come true. It's actually really funny. A lot of them are available on YouTube, and go check those out. It's really funny. But yeah, Billy D. Williams, Story Life. He's coming out with that memoir. I can't wait to read that. I'll probably listen to it and give a review on it. But man, what a career. I mean, just go watch. He's in so many TV shows, so many clips of stuff he was on. You know, he seemed like really he was the man back in the day, right? You know, he's pretty far along nowadays and in getting out much. But I mean, there's acting credits all the way up every year, from the 70s, early 70s, 60s even, all the way to into today. I mean, he has been there, done that, seen everything, done everything. And it's kind of crazy what this guy has accomplished. And I really love reading about what he's done. And I should probably do a lot more. And I really cherish what Billy D. Williams has done for Star Wars and the Lando Calrissian character. So, and now coming along is Donald Glover. And of course, we've already talked a lot about Solo. Loved his depiction in that. Can't say that enough. And Donald Glover, he's a comedian, he's an actor, he's been in movies and TVs, shows. Community as I think the one that he's most notable about. I haven't ever watched that. It's not in my wheelhouse. It seems kind of silly, but obviously I need to. I don't need to put limitations on myself that way. There's another TV show that he's in called Atlanta. You know, I've been to Atlanta several times. It's a fantastic city. I love the food there. I love being in that whole atmosphere of what that city is. And it's so fun. I don't know anything about the TV show. It's a drama show, I'm sure. And I'm sure Donald does a good job. I can't really speak to that at all. But if he's involved, it seems to me like Donald Glover really does have the Midas touch, right? And he is going to be writing this show. I can't wait to see what's in store here. I sound like a broken record. I know I've said that, but it's just so exciting what this is going to be. You know, of so many of these other TV shows, this is one of the ones I want the most. Now, so that's I can't really do Donald Glover justice. I don't follow him that close. I do like his music. This Is America is a great song. What I will say about Donald Glover, it's like I said, it seems like his skills and the way he approaches things and his capability, just like Billy D. And just like the Lando character, I mean, they're just like go hand in hand. I think once we get on the other side of this, decades on, you're not going to be able to remember Lando Calrissian without Billy D. Williams and Donald Glover being spoken in the same breath, right? And so, gosh, what else is there to talk about Lando Calrissian? Oh, books, right? There's few different things as far as that goes. There's canon books and extended universe books. You know, we did an episode on Last Shot. We did an episode on Shadows of the Sith. Carter and his wife did an episode on Princess and the Scoundrel. I don't know if we've done an episode on Bloodline, but Lando has been depicted in that. And in Last Shot, he was the best thing about that book. The antagonist was scary. The book overall was whatever. I think we both liked it, but it wasn't the greatest thing. Shadows of the Sith, you know, we won't shut up about that. I haven't read Princess and the Scoundrel. I don't know what roles he plays. Bloodline is, yeah, I think we did an episode on that, or we've talked about it. I don't even remember what role he plays in it, but anything that Lando's in, it can't be bad. There's a ton of comic books that I haven't read, any of them, I don't think, with Lando in him. Carter has read several of them, I think. But again, it goes back to the depiction of how Lando is in these books. as far as like a rule book of what he is, how he's written. And Carter tells me that in all of these comic books, it's just gold. And like there's 3 different series with him in it, and that they're phenomenal. It's a widely held opinion. And so obviously I'm missing out by not reading these comic books. But really, I mean, again, the quality of the Lando character, right? And then so there's extended universe books. And this is some stuff, it gets to be pretty dated in a sense of like these came out in the 80s or the 90s, right? And, you know, there was a Lando trilogy that came out, I think after the original Han Solo trilogy. That was the original, or that was the origin of the Calrissian Chronicles, right? And I looked up the set of that original Lando trilogy book, and they're not cheap. You can't find them just casually anywhere. I don't know what they're about. I need to read those. I should put that on my list. I think it'd be a real treat to read those and review them. And of course, Lando is also in the Thrawn trilogy. We talked all about that recently in preparation for the Ahsoka show. And Lando is I mean, it's all the same. You can't really get enough of Lando. I mean, I say all the same, but that's not a negative thing. You know, I don't think you'd ever get bored being around Lando. I think if you were to come across Lando in real life, he would be one of the most fun people to hang around with and just be part of. I don't think you could hang around with him very long. I think he'd be blowing and going, and you get your stuff, you get in, you get out. That'd be it. Oh gosh, I've saying Lando 1,000 times, and I'm worried if that's repeating that too much. But he's in Rebels, several episodes of the Rebels. He's also mentioned several times, and he helps out all the characters in that in a major way. He helps the rebellion a little bit. I remember him being a huge surprise seeing him in Rebels a bunch. And we've talked a ton about Rebels. If you care about Lando, go check that out. It's real easy to find and watch just the episodes. They're real episodic. They're real, like they go in sets of 3 or whatever. They're serialized, I guess. There's overarching continuity over the whole series of The Empire's Bad. Of course, Lando's going to help with that a little bit and do some pre-building of what his character is for the films, right? Because The New Hope takes place after all of this. So there is a ton of existing Lando content out there. Everything he does is depicted in such a phenomenal way, even in the extended universe. In the Thrawn trilogy, he's working on a hot planet. And so all the depictions of where he lives and how he does things on this hot planet, you know, the mining facilities there are so fun to just picture in your mind of how this is capable of and how Lando interacts with that stuff, and know that he's responsible for that, right? So I guess what's left to talk about is the actual show itself. And, you know, gosh, so much stuff has happened with this. I mean, it's just been like an explosion recently. It's been years since we've heard about this. You heard about us talk about that recently, a couple of shows ago, that we hadn't heard anything. And Justin Simeon was the writer, and he lamented in the previous news segment that we talked about was that he had not heard anything from Disney, that he's still the showrunner. They still had him pegged for that, and that he's just standing by, waiting for Disney to tell him stuff. And then so, bam, the news comes out that Donald Glover and his brother Steven are going to be the writers for the show, or the new showrunners, if we will. I'm not too up on the lingo of what all exactly those things exactly mean in the Hollywood sense, but it's kind of was a smack in the face to Justin Simeon. He posted to his Instagram that he had found out about this. And I've looked into a couple other things. I haven't seen any other response or anything else from that. So, man, what a deal to find out that basically you've been fired in a news article about this Lando show. So what does all this mean? What is going on here? What's the deal with this? I mean, I don't have any idea. I mean, anything is just pure speculation. But again, you can't say any bad things about Donald Glover. I don't know anything. I think he did a Haunted Mansion thing. I know that didn't make a whole ton of money this past weekend. But all this had to have been in the works before that. So, gosh, it makes me speculate, makes me wonder if him being brought up about this thing, saying, "Oh, I haven't heard anything about Lando," spurred somebody into action at Lucasfilm that made them think, "Oh, we should do something about this." And where Donald Glover was in somebody's ear at Lucasfilm and said, "Hey, you need to put me on this," that maybe he needs some project or something, and has some good idea about what the Lando character should be up to or doing. One thing I will say, jumping the gun just a tad. I guess the really good question about this is going to be is when will this show take place? And that is, I think it's obviously going to take place after Lando meets Han Solo, right? But even then, I think it still could take place. The Solo movie took place in approximately between 13 and 10 BBY before the Battle of Yavin, and all the way up until Lando is the administrator of Cloud City in whatever year that was, after 0 BBY, right? But he could have been there for a while. We don't know exactly how long he was there. But even then, Lando has this relationship with L337. There's no reason this show couldn't take place before the Solo film. He's pretty young in this case, and Donald Glover isn't that young anymore. It's been several years since the Solo film. And so, that makes it to where so many things could be shown in a Lando show. Could Solo show up? Could Darth Maul show up? Could what ship is he going to fly? Could Darth Vader or some of these other people show up in this? That is going to be an issue. Could Leia show up? Luke Skywalker's probably not, unless Lando has a reason to go to Tatooine for some reason. But the possibilities are endless of just what could be depicted in. There's too many characters you can pick from that could show up in this. You got actors you'd have to pay. So that leads me to really, really think that this is going to be somewhat of a standalone thing. That the story is going to be a total one-off, and hopefully has draws some stuff from the extended universe stuff, makes that canon again. Hopefully it's from the mind of Donald Glover and Stephen Glover, so it's going to be good. And surely they've pitched an idea to Lucasfilm so that it's going to be of quality. That if they came at them with something silly, Lucasfilm wouldn't make that silly or off the wall, And gosh, it makes me just salivate for this thing so much. So obviously there's a writer's strike going on as I record this. There's an actor's strike. So that, we don't know any idea when this is actually going to take place, the writing of it. So, we're not going to see this at the very least until 2026. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's not until 2027. or maybe I'm jumping the gun, 2025, 2027 time frame that we actually get to see this. That seems like a long speculation, but that's what it takes to make a quality Star Wars. And we know Donald Glover and the rules for Lando and all this other stuff have to make some supreme quality, right? And I think the time factor in that, there's probably 2 axes on a grid or something, right? That's going to make a super quality Lando. And all these other shows are still going on. A lot of these other ones are still made. Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, Andor Season 2. So many of these things are going to be out and subsequent seasons in the works, hopefully. But it makes you wonder, what are these shows going to have influence on the Lando show? I really can't. I don't know exactly, but on the other end of these things, we're going to have some seasoned directors who know how to make a Star Wars show. I'm willing to bet a lot of these directors, obviously a lot of the people who make these shows, are going to cross over into a Lando effort. And again, it's going to lend to quality, right? So really don't know what else to say about a Lando TV show. I mean, it's total speculation. All I know is that all the building blocks are in place to make a fabulous show that I can't wait to watch. Some other little things is, again, I started this with the Billy D. Williams autobiography. The blurb about that and trying to sell it is that it's about his personal life, going all the way from his upbringing to his troubled career and the controversies, all the way up, including Star Wars and all the other stuff. I really can't. I hope he has. I know he's going to have some great things to say about Star Wars and his. I mean, Lando Calrissian is on the cover, the teaser cover of this book. So it's going to be super interesting to read this book. It comes out in February 2024. I hope we can get an advanced copy. I really want to preview that and talk about it. Billy D. Williams, you've heard me gush about him this whole time. Fantastic actor. All the stuff he's been in is great. All the Colt 45 ads are hilarious. Gosh, I can't wait for this book. So that's the meat of the show, y'all. I really like speculating about. I really love the Lando character. I'm sorry Carter can't be here to talk about this with me. I know this is one of his favorite characters. I know it's something he's gonna really be. You should have talked about this, or you should have talked about that. So I'm hoping I get some good feedback on this. It's a lot of fun to record this solo. I hope I did the Lando character justice. He's such a broad character. He's such a good character. And just the future that we're going to get with him is really bright. I know it's going to be so fantastic. I hope when this Lando show comes out, you're right alongside with me watching this thing and getting to enjoy it every second along the way. So on to our next segment, how the Force works.
That's not how the Force works.
Tristan submitted the question, what kind of relationship did Lando have with L337? So, I mean, there's a lot to this. It's really easy to fall off into some political side, which I don't really want to get into. But I think, me personally, I think they were business partners. They were companions. I don't know if it crossed into a romantic sense per se, but I mean, who's to say it couldn't? What I will say is a lot of this relationship stuff is really fun to speculate in. I know a lot of people are emotionally invested in that, and I kind of encourage that. So much about any fiction thing is being able to take from it and make what you will of it. And I don't, I don't think anything's off limits here. I don't think there's a wrong take you can have outside of some weird thing. Me personally, um, I don't know 100% about a droid and a human, but there's no. It's a limitation I have personally. There's not an analog. I'm only ever going to have relationship with other humans, so it's kind of hard for me to think about. But you can also tell that they cared for each other a great deal in this film. Lando was extremely distraught when L337 died, and especially given the circumstances, he wasn't allowed to grieve very much. I think once they got out of the maelstrom and into the planet where they're going to refine the coaxium, especially with how close of a call that situation was with the black hole, right? And getting his ship torn up, he just kind of left Han Solo and the rest of them there. It's like, nope, peace out, I'm leaving, right? And I hope he got his time to grieve after that. So, they're obviously very dear friends. It was so sad, and Donald Glover did such a fine job depicting that. Take that from what you will. I think it's early to read too much into it, but I enjoyed those depictions. I really like the L337 character, and I hope we get more. There's really two types of droids, maybe more in Star Wars. There's ones who are just pretty much automatons, right? There's ones who have personalities like R2D2, C3PO, and stuff like that. L337 was one of the more personality-driven droids, and it was a fantastic depiction. Fantastic. So, that was how the Force works. On to the HoloNet news.
You made the HoloNet.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe I get to do this HoloNet news segment. I've been anticipating this one for so long. And coming out August 29th is the book From a Certain Point of View. It has to do with Return of the Jedi. The last one that came out was Empire Strikes Back. This one is Return of the Jedi. These are on my reading list. I haven't read them yet, but this one's going to spur me into it. I guess I could go find that one and really get after it. But this book, on Twitter, the publishers put out, it's fun to speculate what all characters that the different authors are going to write about. And so they put out just a little blurb on all the different characters. I'm going to run through them right fast just to get you enticed on what's going to be in this book. But I'm telling you right now, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to read this book. So, Moff Jerjerrod, right? And he has to do with the Death Star. Max Rebo and how he survived Jabba's sand barge. EV-9D9, remembering the anomaly, and his comrade R5D4. Bib Fortuna. Dune Sea Songs, about how the tagline is how everyone got to Jabba's palace. Malakili's story, the Rancor handler, right? Boba Fett. Scion, the guy who was kicked by Luke Skywalker. That's going to be funny. Some more about Salacious B. Crumb. Spice Noodles, right? The weird-looking alien that is the singer. The point of view of the Sarlacc is going to be in this. Sim Alu, somebody who's on the Emperor's shuttle as they're going to Death Star 2. Bright Eyes, the creature on Dagobah. Obi-Wan, when he talks about from a certain point of view. I guess this would be Ghost Obi-Wan. Mon Mothma is going to have a story. Lando. Scout Trooper, I think, on Endor. A Wicket is going to have a story. Shaman Logray is another Ewok that's going to have a story. Commander Igar, the individual, the Imperial person who captured Luke Skywalker on Endor, Akbar is going to have a comic. Arville, oh, I'm going to mess this one up. Arville Crinsid, he's the Green Leader, A-Wing pilot. Riz, just a run-of-the-mill stormtrooper. Silcott, Red 3, another A-Wing pilot. Core, the Death Star gunner. I think this is a guy who was pulling the lever that we saw on screen. Nanta, the Ewok storykeeper. Darth Sidious is going to have a story. And the little bird talks about like what's going on in his head when he's with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in the throne room. It seems like one story is going to be just from the point of view of a Star Destroyer when the Executor dies. A stormtrooper on the Death Star, Admiral Piet, who was on the Executor, one of Palpatine's guards, a troop killed by an Ewok, Wedge Antilles, the Rebellion Chronicler, Dexter Jetsitter, and it sounds like a story about him feeling guilty about helping his role in Start in this war. Anakin Skywalker, Admiral Pride, and a story about the Journal of the Wills. And so, oh my goodness, how many stories is that? I didn't even keep count, but it's insane how many stories are going to be in this and what the depth and the breadth that they're going to do and cover. Oh my gosh. We're going to put this on the podcast. I know it. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait to discover what my favorite story is. I hope you're there with us on that one too. So the next little news tidbit is Lucasfilm are reporting considering turning The Mandalorian Season 4 into a theatrical released movie. I hope this is just a rumor. I hope this isn't true. I really like the weekly exposition on Disney Plus. But on the other hand, it would sure be cool to go see a movie at the theater with all my friends and get to eat popcorn. You know, we did that with Indiana Jones, and it was immensely fun. Getting to do more of that, getting to do the rapid reactions right after the film. All the things would be super fun. I think we're going to be missing something. Gosh, we got a lot. There's a lot of characters here that deserve justice. Bo-Katan, Mando, Grogu. What's it going to be like? I mean, maybe it's going to be something that they just need an epic moment. And they're sitting in their writer's room trying to figure this out. And it's like, hey, a movie makes more sense than this. You know, a movie's only 2 hours. When we get to do a TV show, they're 8 to 9 hours. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe it's a Writers Guild thing. I don't know. We got plenty of time to speculate and think about this. It's easy to jump the gun, right? Gosh, so all that's left to talk about is a moment of the week.
We would be honored if you would join us.
My moment of the week, and it's only just going to be me, is getting to do this to fly solo. Usually, Carter and I are collaborating on this. He does most of the notes, honestly. But this one was totally put out by me. I didn't review the notes right fast. He sure is sad he can't be here. He gave his input on a couple other things. But I'm getting to record this. I'm sitting in my studio, and I got a green screen, and I made it look like I'm flying in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. You know, I don't think it's going to be the best video because I'm going to look at another screen the whole time. But, gosh, getting able to do this by myself is it's a daunting task. It's really fun. But being able to put all this together, researching on the little topics, just figured out what the show is going to be about. I think it was kind of serendipity that this news about the Lando show came out. And, you know, I don't think anybody dislikes Lando, so getting the opportunity to do this was just really, really fun. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. Yeah, that's my moment of the week. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to put this together. And I want you, dear listener, to connect with us on our social medias. If you go to our Instagram page, there's a link tree there. Instagram is at warhammer.station. You can It can hook you up on our Discord. We have lots of fun little discussions there. You can join our Patreon and get in on the book club. We're doing every now and then. I'm trying to figure out how to do more Star Wars stuff on the, what do you call that, Twitch. We have a Twitter. You know, I post me every day on the Instagram. There's tons of opportunity out there to follow our content and what we're doing with Star Wars Station Communication Podcast. There's tons of opportunity with us out there on Patreon. There's lots of tiers you can subscribe to. You can get stickers, you can get shirts, you can interact with us on the podcast. It's so much fun to get to connect with the community out there, and hopefully you can be part of developing that, you know, because we're growing fast. We got lots of followers on Instagram. I'm doing a lot of Warhammer stuff, going to a lot of events, doing a lot of speculation with that. It's a lot of fun to do this content creation and connect with people out there. I'm not going to get tired of saying that. I really enjoy this. Carr's going to be back soon. He misses and is sad he can't be here, but he'll be back. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you so much for being part of this. And, you know, we'll catch you next time. Thank you.